Here's another episode, 100 Bad Videos. I'm your host, Kenji Lee. Today, my guest is a friend of many, many decades. In fact, we were just trying to figure it out. We think we've narrowed it down to around mid-90s.
Yeah.
But since then, we have gone around the world. We'll get to travel. We have both continued our love for sports, team sports, and actually, I'm curious in this new individual sport that this man is participating in, and I see him blowing up in that realm as well. Curious about that crossover, and I think most significantly, we're both fathers. So we'll dive into all these things. I just want to introduce my guest today, Makana.
Hey, thanks, brother.
Thanks, bro. This one's been in the works because I've been trying to get the OG, like, decade-long homies. And you know, like, you've seen, you're real supportive on the internet, right? Yeah. Of everything that I'm doing, that my brother's doing. And in the podcast world and the social media world, you don't really know, right? Like, I think people can see a relationship. They see through all the music and the cuts.
Yeah.
And they can kind of see, but the whole ethos of what I'm doing is more, don't go search for something else. It's more of an inward, like, who do we already know?
Yeah.
And shining a light on people that we already come across and have been influenced with in life. And I think you're definitely one of those people. Don, we've had many podcasts in his garage that just we don't film.
Bro,
he's another one.
Those.
You know what I mean? Like,
get that on tape and release those.
So this is the first of many that I want to get into.
That's dope.
But let's let the people know, like, who's Makana? How would you describe yourself today? And then we'll kind of dig into where we from.
I think of myself first and foremost. I'm a dad. You know, I think that's the biggest part of my life right now. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I said dad. I'm a son Monday through Friday. I'm a nurse practitioner, you know. And when I'm outside of work, I'm being a family man. I enjoy Jiu Jitsu. Just trying to be a kind human. That's me.
So family man was first.
Family man first by far. Yeah.
You know, isn't that crazy to look at our lives as children and how we saw our parents, and now we are the parents with children?
It's the dopest thing that I think when I think of us, and that's why I love your and Ty's interaction, the podcast. It's, again, I knew you guys when we were young, and so it's just crazy to see us now with kids trying to figure this out and do the damn thing. And then I reflect on our parents. I mean, we're talking about soccer. Going back when we started soccer, not my parents knew nothing about soccer. Our coaches knew very little about soccer. And the fact that they made it happen, and not only did they make it happen, we were quite successful as a club. Like, we put Leeward on the map. You know, we were the OGs of the West Coast soccer thing. And now I can walk down the street from my house and there's a beautiful soccer field with goals that, you know, are already there. Before, we had to come to find a park, set up the goals, never have goals. Okay, I use cones, never have cones, trees. We made it work. And you know what? It was a great chapter.
You know what? There's the makings of, I talked to Rocky about this.
Yeah.
There's the makings of, like, a Sandlot in our history. You know what I mean?
Bro.
Some kind of movie like that.
Bro.
Just think of all the characters.
You could definitely, if we really sat down with the group and had the Sandlot roster and our team, there's correlations between that you could pick out. I don't know who I would be. I'd probably be Squints or something. But
I mean, because the elements of, for me, when I think about this time that Makana's referring to, West Oahu in the 90s it might as well been like Vegas, like a desert far away that you know about, but you got to pack bags and rations just to go over to the west side. It was like, I know we're aging ourselves, but this is before Google Maps.
Yeah.
I remember my mom having printed out directions for, like, a field in Kaneohe. You know, like, for us, learning this island was through the parks that we had to go to play soccer with kids from that area of the island. So it was almost like we was it's funny because just on Ty, the podcast with Ty, Brooke Parker, the guest, was talking about Hawaiian history and basically missions, different sets at war, traveling, fighting, that in a way, that's kind of how it felt for us. Like, where are we going?
Yeah.
Where is that?
Keely, where is that?
Yeah,
like, you know,
Keely,
where are these parks? Like, I don't know.
Who over there? Oh, you know,
rolling
one
up to
guy.
the park, you seeing the other team getting ready. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh, that's the fast guy.
Yeah,
Okay. You know
what shoes is he wearing? Oh, Vapors. Okay, watch out for him. Yeah.
He get the new Predators.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot. You know what I love about at least team sports is that part where we can all kind of read the lay of the land and read people a little bit, and they were like, okay, Makana, that's your guy. You know what I mean? Or we're delegating. Okay, Kenji, that looks pretty like a weak link over there. So
it's gonna be a corner. Kenji, get in there, bro. We need to height. Yeah. I think that's as far as team sports goes, the communication aspect, and it's not just us verbalizing, because in soccer sports, very high paced. We're moving about. We're trying to direct traffic, but then majority of it is through nonverbal communication, body language. Like I'm looking at you, like, okay, I gonna make this run. You're gonna ping it to me. This is how it's gonna go. And so learning that early on, and then incorporating that into daily life now is huge. Like you said, I can read body language a person just by viewing before I approach a situation. Same thing, like in the hospital. I'm coming in, I got to read a room. And so I'm looking at the body language, and that's telling me majority of what I need to know before I start talking. So
tell me about that, because this is a chapter that I'm the least familiar with when it's you and me.
Okay.
Soccer, yeah. Even parenting a bit, but like what today, what is your profession?
Yeah.
Speak on that. And I kind of want to get into the bigger picture of, because there's some stuff going around about nursing in Hawaii.
Yeah.
But go ahead, tell us what you do today and what you've done to reach this point.
Okay. So I think I got to give flowers to my mom's, because she had us when she was young, out of high school, and then she ended up going back to school while I was probably in intermediate high school for nursing. So that was kind of my exposure. And I remember just seeing how hard she worked and being around that kind of environment. I thought, oh, this is cool. Maybe I'll be interested in that. And they never forced, never was like, you need to go into medicine. This is what your thing is. It's something I've been interested in. I was just like, all right, I'll go with it. So went to UNLV. I was pre-med. I thought I was just going to be a doctor.
Wait, you went UNLV?
UNLV.
How come? Yeah. Okay. What year is this?
So 04 to 09.
Okay.
Yep. So pre-med, like took the MCAT, everything, applied, very competitive, didn't get in. And I was like, oh, okay, what am I going to do now? Ended up coming back home. Mom was like, come back home, figure it out. If you want to apply again, you want to do this, like, let's do this. By this time, she's already a nurse. I have an in. I come home. I start volunteering at a hospital, getting to see the lay of the land, how everything interacts. And they're like, oh, you're here. Like, why not work and get paid, while I'm figuring things out. So ended up being like a medical assistant, like on the floors. And then I was a unit secretary. And then one of the nurses then, she was like, hey, like there's this new program, like for those who already have a degree, you can do like an accelerated nursing degree to your nurse practitioner. I was like, what's a nurse practitioner? You know what I mean? And so I thought about it, applied, just like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? Got in, did that here at UH Manoa, became a nurse practitioner, and then had various positions. I helped. One of my fondest memories is working out at Waianae Comp on the west side with, the Native Hawaiian population. Opened up some school-based health centers there, worked as primary care, and then got pulled to Kapiolani, the Children's Hospital for, I specialize in peds. So that's, where you want to be here. Pediatrics. And so went there and have been there ever since in various roles. And as of late, from COVID, I've been in infectious disease at the hospital. So I'm an infectious disease nurse practitioner there.
At Kapiolani?
At Kapiolani, yep.
You see show? Or what?
Very few. I think she works more nighttime. So sometimes when I'm coming in and she's leaving, like, hey,
shout out to Michelle.
Yep.
Kaboya.
Yep.
She delivered our second child.
There we go.
Unintentionally. that's a whole other story. That's
for another pod. Get done on here.
No, but shout out to nurse practitioners. And I saw a recent thing you shared, something about like, with your nurse thing. What is that? So
it's, again, like when I was made aware of the program. I was like, what's a nurse practitioner? As the medical landscape continues to evolve, you know, the positions, nurse practitioners have been a while for a little bit, but it's more like now as there's a shortage of physicians. A nurse practitioner is a registered nurse who has advanced degree. And with the advanced degree, we now have increased scope. So I can have my own practice. I can see my own patients. I can order whatever tests, or not whatever, what tests that I want. I can prescribe medications, you know. And so I could technically run as an independent provider, but that's not really known to the population. So when I come in, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm a nurse practitioner. People's like, oh, what's that? And so when Tamuo put out that thing and the guy's just like, I'm a nurse practitioner. He's like, so what's the goal? He's like, no, that's it. And he's like, oh, that's just like on my day to day, you know, people come in, they're like, oh, Dr. Makana. I'm like, no, you know, I'm a nurse practitioner. And they're just looking at me. I was just call me Makana. You know what I mean?
So you're not a doctor.
I am not a doctor.
Is that even is that a goal, or is that?
Before, it really used to be. And I had really bad imposter syndrome. Like it to the point where they're like, hey, when you come to work, this is your designated parking. I'm like, okay, cool. I pull up and I pull into a stall and it says physician parking. I would wait in my car to make sure nobody else was leaving. Then I would exit because I didn't want somebody else seeing me coming out and be like, you're not a doctor. Like, what are you doing? Like, it was that bad. And then when I first starting out, having to talk to other doctors and say, hey, here's the recommendations that we're making, you know, it was kind of daunting. Not that the doctors were mean or anything like that. I work with a great team. But just that in itself, you know, being like, oh, I'm not quite there. I'm not a doctor, but what am I doing?
So give us the breakdown then. As we are fathers of young children, how do you explain? Because to them, you walk into once you're in those doors, everybody's doctor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Everyone in scrubs, everyone not wearing street clothes is doctor.
Yeah.
So give us the basic, I don't know, hierarchy is the right word, but who's who in a hospital?
Yeah, so typically you have, I mean, depending where you are, you'll have a primary team, whether that's the hospitalist team if you're on the normal floors. If you're in the ICU, you have intensivists. And then you have your nursing staff. That's, you know, the one majority taking care of you while you're there. But then depending on what you're in for, we bring in specialists, right? Just like you specialize in this landscape, you know, I specialize in infectious disease. So whether you're treating or you're looking for a suspected infection or need help with the treatment regimen, then you bring us in and we come to help and say, hey, you know, I would get this test or I would give this medication for this, you know, suspected disease.
And they're all physicians?
All physicians for which one?
Like the title part, when you're talking about your parking stall,
you
know what I mean? Like
they're all physicians.
Okay.
You know, and that's something that Kapiolani is getting better at. So shout out Kapiolani. And so there's also physician's assistants. We're called mid-levels because, again, I mean, not on the hierarchy, but RN, you have NPs and PAs or physician assistants, and then you have your doctors, right? And so they call us mid-levels. And so we have a bunch of mid-levels at Kapiolani, and we're, you know, there's more of us. And so we're spreading the word like, hey, provider, you know, not physician. But for me at this point, going back to your initial question, man, was that ever back a goal? Initially it was. I was like, I got to prove to myself, you know, and I'm fortunate that the residents at the med school here, they rotate with us. We have a month with each one. And so now at this time in my life, I'm like, you know, I don't need to prove it to anybody. Like I don't need the title. The title is not what I sought after. It's what I do. And I think I found that middle ground with being a nurse practitioner. I get to spend a little bit more time with the families, make that connection, but then still have that additional ability to then, you know, have the more critical thinking and process as far as, you know, solving problems.
You know, I'll say that too, as someone who's been a patient. Most of the time, we're not there with the top of the chain, if you will, like the doctor. In fact, the experience, if we just kind of draw a parallel to like a restaurant, starts with the host.
Yeah.
The first point of contact, that person who's getting your ID, filling out, handing you clipboards and pen and paper, like that's where the experience starts. Maybe even the person right outside the door, the valet.
As soon as you're coming in.
You know what I mean? Like everything matters. And a lot of times, unlike restaurants, you're not going to a hospital for recreation or entertainment. Like you're going there because there's a need.
I've always wanted like to be in a profession where I'd be like, yeah, come visit me at work. You know, it's so fun. But like, if you see, and I've had, you know, classmates' kids come through, or, you know, neighbors down the road from my mom's house, like, hey, you know, and I'm just like, oh man, like it hits different. And I think, like you said, like nobody really wants to be there unless you're giving birth or something, you know, it's a good, but then as soon as you get there, it starts with the first person you interact with. My youngest just broke his leg, right? So he broke his leg, and I got great advice from a mentor. He said, hey, you know what? When you're working, be that person, be that provider. When you're dad, be dad. Don't try to mix the worlds. That's when it gets funky. And so, you know, I was just like, this is what I think it is, but I'm going to go, you know. And so we went in. Like you said, you know, from the first person, it was the security guards getting us out to the ED. He said, oh, yeah, here, come here. He obviously saw my kid crying in pain. He's like, oh, come, brother, come. Brought me in. And, you know, from the get-go, the nurses, and we had a really great experience. But for me being on the flip side, you know what I mean? I understand. And because I do it in pediatrics, every time I walk into a room, I visually see my 2-year-old, my 8-year-old. And I think it's because of that affordance of me becoming a dad that I've become a much better practitioner, because I can put myself in that position. I'm a local guy with tattoos. They're looking at me like, oh, okay, this brother is not going to use medical terminology. We can talk to this guy. And so I think by far it's made me a better provider being a dad.
But let's kind of address what we see in the news as far as when I see like Hawaii and nursing in the news. You can speak on it more than I can. So I kind of wanted to get an idea of that landscape that you talk about as the local guy with tattoos who has the education, the chops, right? You know what you're doing, and you can speak that lingo if you need to. But also what's important for local people when they go to a hospital, they feel like I got to go talk to somebody who's not from here, listen to them tell me stuff that I don't understand. So there's that level of comfort that a local, born and raised father, even better, nurse practitioner across the room, there's a comfort level that comes with that.
Yeah.
But in the news, we're seeing nurses who aren't from here coming here. So kind of unpack why is this happening? How do you feel as a nurse practitioner? How is it inside the hospital in the break room?
Yeah.
When it's just all nurse practitioners, but some are from here, local, some aren't. Like, kind of unpack this whole thing for someone on the outside.
Sure, I'm gonna do my best. That's a tough one.
It's
bro.
all
That's,
riding
that's
on you,
a,
right?
That's a yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a lot of people angry. No, it's hard. Ideally, again, you want people who are from here, and for various reasons, not only profession-wise, that may not always be the case. And don't get me wrong, sometimes we have travelers or people who come to Hawaii for a job, they end up staying and they become really great nurses, and you know what I mean, and they fit well. And then again, sometimes you have local nurses, may not be the same, and so I can't lump them all together in one group. But I would say for a local family, having somebody who kind of looks familiar is helpful. But then it's a shortage. Again, our state is ever growing. You have a limited number of facilities. With that limited number of facilities, you have a limited number of nurses. Again, the nursing schools are pumping them out, but you got to get vetted, you got to get trained, you got to go through the process. And then recently with all the strikes, again, that's something that's above my pay grade as far as, you know, them dealing with that and getting a fair wage and making sure that the staff ratios are safe for everyone that's involved. So there's levels, you know, to all of that. But again, I'm grateful for the people who are here and stay here and choose to continue to give us their best. And for those who come and fit well, you know, also it's the same.
If you come with that respect, that aloha spirit, then, you know, a lot of people thrive here who aren't from here.
Exactly.
I guess it's no different in the medical field. Could you just, because I kind of want to get to some sports things here, but kind of give us the rundown as you see it, as far as who's fighting for what.
Who's fighting for what?
The nurses are fighting for what? The unions are fighting for what? The hospital's fighting for what?
I think it all comes down to, I mean, unfortunately, money, right? There's money involved. I'm not a huge fan of our healthcare system or insurances here, but unfortunately, that's something that we have to deal with. So money is involved. As far as the nurses go, adequate pay, I know is a big thing. And again, you should be compensated for the work that you provide. But then also they talk about staffing ratios. For those of you who don't know, staffing ratios, depending on where you are in the hospitals, if it requires a lot of attention, like you're in an ICU, your ratio is going to be smaller, maybe 1-to-1, 1-to-2.
What is that?
One nurse to one patient or one. So that's the ratio. Or if you're on a normal med surgical ward, you may have more patients to handle or for your load because they're less.
What is the
intense.
highest? What is the highest ratio then? Right now,
Ooh,
like
that
1-to-5, 1-to-10. Like,
Usually, that I don't know. I know usually on the ward it could be like 1-to-4. Sometimes, obviously, it'll be a little bit higher if there's a circumstances if they can't make it. But that I really don't know. Yeah.
okay. Well, thanks. And like I bring that up because you're in there. This is what you do. It's your livelihood, and it matters to every single buddy here on this island. But Oahu. A lot of people think of Hawaii as like one place, and they don't realize you might have to get on a plane to get from one place to another place.
Oh.
So I know that if you need a certain amount of healthcare in Hawaii, the state of Hawaii, let's just say the 4 major islands, a lot of times you have to get on the aircraft to receive that care.
Yep.
And so this matters even to people not on Oahu. It matters to everyone who's like in Hawaii. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm curious about, and it's better to know about before you need it.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. 100%.
So let's talk about the current. I know you're a nurse practitioner, but also share with me your jiu-jitsu journey,
dude. So again, I've been doing jiu-jitsu probably since I started 2018. Pandemic happened, put a hole in that. But at that time, I mean, we did soccer, team sport. You know, that was great. I was okay, but I was never going to go pro. You know what I mean? And I knew that. But I still.
He was good, bro.
Oh, thanks.
Come on. He's got ODP. Come on.
Never was going to go pro. But competitive, active, needed something. For a minute, did the bodybuilding, and that was different.
Hey, shout out to Was it Stingray?
Stingray, yeah.
Physique? No, which one?
Men's physique.
Men's physique.
Yep. I did 2.
You did 2, and what was the results of that?
Stingray was second place. That was the first one, and then I did Paradise Cup. And that one was first place.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey.
Shout out to Don for helping with my posing.
I remember Don was taking photos, and
it might have looked a little sus in his garage. People walking by, me just posing, him taking pictures. But
did he oil you up too? Is that?
Not gonna say anything. So that was cool. Like I got to test my body, but shout out to the bodybuilders and people who do that because it takes a lot of dedication. And I just wanted to test myself and see. But then I took a break from. I played some men's league soccer. It was okay. Getting old, you know what I mean. So I took a break from things, especially when starting to have kids. At that time, my oldest now was like 2. So I was again focusing, trying to adjust to the dad life, but needed something. And then because I live Eva, I work in town. I'm in traffic at least 2 hours a day. And instead of listening to the radio, I listen to podcasts. So if you do the math, that's a lot of time listening. And of course, my intro was Joe Rogan. And there's always, some connection to jiu-jitsu. And I was like, oh man, he's talking about this a lot. Like, I should try it out. Just try it out. So I had family and friends who train. And so they took me to my first class. And after that, everybody was saying, it sounds cliche, but it was like addicted. I was like, oh, okay, like this.
First time you was addicted.
First time. I remember being outside, being super nervous because I didn't know anything, you know what I mean? And I had this ego, I was bodybuilding before. And so like had this ego walking in. And I remember there's this military female, probably like a $120 blue belt, who tore me up. Like, I don't even know how many times she subbed me in that round, but tore me up. And I was just like, wait, like this is legit. Like, I got messed up. But it was that wanting to learn more that got me addicted. And ever since, man, I've just been learning and learning, started teaching the kids class. And I think started teaching the kids class helped my jiu-jitsu profoundly. Because again, if you truly think you know something or master something, you have to be able to then describe it or teach it to an elementary school level. And that's what it is. And so still learning.
What remind me of the belts?
Yeah. For the adults, it's white, blue, purple, brown, black.
5. Okay.
Yeah.
Different for kids?
Different for kids. Yeah.
There's a yellow in there, yeah?
Yep. So you go white, a white belt, and then you go gray, white, solid gray, black, yellow, and you go all the way up. And then I think, I forget what age, but you have to be a certain age before you can get, a blue belt or get beyond that while you're still a kid. So there's no kid black belts, not like some other martial arts where they'll.
Yeah. But even if you're a prodigy,
bro,
and it's evident this person.
Bro, there's green belts who are just tearing up, hobbyists, blue belts.
Yeah.
And, you just know. I mean, they've been doing it, cakey days.
Well, what I'm curious is, one, how many people have, like right now, let's shout out your school. Where do you go?
Alliance.
That's the one, YPO.
YPO.
Yeah.
Right next to Costco. Come on by.
Yeah, you go past Costco and was that Nissan or something?
Yeah.
Actually, I was there for some reason. I forgot. They do other stuff like Muay Thai and like on other days. Because I know the triangle, the Alliance on the wall thing.
Before they used to, yeah. Now it's because they've expanded so much. It's gi and no gi. Yeah, They have 2 spaces now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, of the people who are there on the mats at Alliance, and maybe at large, but how many people have the experience of bodybuilding, soccer, and nurse practitioner?
Just me, bro.
Just you.
Just me.
What can you offer? What kind of insight can you offer someone who's day one on the mat that only Makana can offer? Just insight. It doesn't have to be like profound truth, but like an insight.
Just come. Leave your ego at the door. If you can't leave your ego at the door, then I don't think jiu-jitsu is right for you because you're going to get humbled. But I think it was Gabe who said, just show up. And that's the truth. Like you show up and be willing to learn, keep an open mind, and it'll take itself from there.
How does the ego interfere?
You have to be willing to fail. And this is something that I hammer in the kids class. Like, guys, you're going to fail. I need you to fail. The only true failure is you give up. You're going to fail. You're going to get tapped out. You need to get tapped out. You need to put yourself in these bad positions. If you're unwilling, I feel bad because when I first started to, even though my ego got checked, I was, I'm holding on for dear life. I'm using all my strength. I feel bad. Sorry to all my partners in the beginning, man. I was a jerk, like just spazzing. But at some point, the upper belts are like, hey, there's no need to spaz. You know what I mean?
What do you mean, like fighting?
Bro,
in a losing position?
In a losing position, just I don't know what I'm doing. I'm squeezing hard, just trying to, and they're like, hey, like, no, just chill. But if you can't do that and you just have this, high maka and you just want to keep going, like, you're never going to learn. You're never going to progress. And so that ego death that's constantly on the mat. And I tell, again, the kids, they're afraid to tap. I see them and I'll tap for them. I'm like, guys, tap. I don't want you getting injured. Like, I tap out on a daily basis, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm learning each time. And if you can't tap, you're gonna get snapped or you're gonna go to sleep. You know what I mean? And so, having a big ego is not good for jiu-jitsu, I would say.
I feel like as someone, I'm saying this, I've never been on the mats. I know the day's coming. Yeah, no, the day's coming. Were you there when I tore my ACL? Not ACL, Achilles.
Soccer?
Were you? No. Did you even know that?
Last one?
Bro, I snapped my Achilles.
Yeah, I was there.
You were there, right?
Yeah, at the field.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was a huge moment for me because I'm thinking of, you could say there was a death of an ego. I already wasn't a big ego guy anyway, but it kind of made this physical injury, this physical limitation to my abilities, it kind of shook me.
Yeah.
And I sort of understood how people get depressed.
Yeah.
Especially athletes. And I'm not even a professional athlete. I don't do this for a living. I do it for fun.
Yeah.
I love the game.
Yeah.
And so to just take that off the table as an option, you know, the weekly point that you look to, like for me, that was always soccer.
Yeah.
The futsal, the soccer day, whatever it was, like that was a driver of my week.
Yeah.
For most of my life, my adult life especially. So the therapeutic nature that I get, or the therapeutic effect that I get from playing soccer, futsal, it's not an option now.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that sucks.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do? And I mean, I started other ways. I've been going to the gym a lot. I just do calisthenics, things that swimming, do laps. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same for me because one, it's an individual thing.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's not, because the conversations that happen in my head are actually fulfilling that kind of satiating that need I felt when I played soccer. It's like I'm learning something. And so like I found other ways to tap into that kind of mindset that only happens when your blood is moving and you're moving your body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard to meditate and get there. It's easier when you're sweating, like after sweating or bleeding, some kind of form. And so in a way, like I know I'll probably never play soccer the same. Like I'll never have that spring, or it is what it is. I get it. But I've thought of jiu-jitsu in terms of like, well, that's another way that's popular because of podcasts and stuff like that. And people that are in and out of my life, it's like jiu-jitsu is one of those things I feel has a strong pull for men, especially middle-aged men.
Apparently, it got me.
Especially middle-aged fathers.
Yeah.
Right? There's a archetype of jiu-jitsu. And so I think there's an esoteric nature, right? Like you only know if you roll kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is that a saying? That should be it. Like you only know if you roll.
There it is.
There it is. There's that to it. But I gotta just assume just by sheer numbers that a majority, my assumption, again, I haven't been on the mat. So my assumption is that a lot of people on the mat share a lot of, they're nodding their head when they're listening to you talk, right? But I gotta assume that there are some outliers that are still that ego-driven maniac. Maybe you're in here for different reasons.
Yeah.
And so how does that play out on the mat when you have that person who's like still got their demons, still got their ego, who hasn't let go, but maybe has just muscled their way to a brown belt?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's that kind of guy out there too. How does that play out when you're on the mats?
Yeah. Again, I think with everything, you have that bell-shaped curve. Majority of us are kind of in the center, right? You do have those outliers. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. But I think as far as the culture or the nature in the gym, we all know which guy. So you may not get the roles that you want because people are like, oh no, like this guy is just going to yank on something. I'm not trying to get injured. Jiu-jitsu, and what I love about jiu-jitsu is that you can go hard. You can go pretty hard. You know what I mean? Versus, other striking aspects where you're getting knocked. You can spar only so much for what I do for a living. I need this. But you can go pretty hard. But there's still, again, those people who take it past. And if that's the case, then again, you know who you are. You're not going to get your roles. And you may not get say, I notice you're doing something, that you could tighten up. I may not offer it to you because, again, I don't know, just how you're vibing. But I think largely that filters itself out, like within the culture as you get in the higher belts. All of the guys there are people who I respect because, like you said, the non-verbal communication, looking at you, I can kind of get a sense. But without saying something, I can get everything I need to know from you by rolling with you. Whether you're somebody who quits under pressure really quick, or whether you have that ego that you can't just let go. Like, I'm going to break your arm. Like, you need to tap, brother. Like, I know you feel it. You know what I mean? And so there's those people, but I think, they find their way someplace else. You won't last long in one gym if it's a good gym.
So it's like gym hoppers.
Pretty, I
kind
would
of
say so. Yeah. Yeah.
the gym has a natural way, the environment has a natural way of filtering out
Yeah.
who should stay and who should leave.
Or you have the other enforcer who comes in and just puts you in your place, and you're just like, oh, okay, message received. Like, I'm
See,
good.
that's the thing. Like, with in a way, I said, like, I alluded to the idea that jiu-jitsu is an individual sport, but in this case, it feels like a team sport in that the gym collectively knows, okay, that's the guy who's gonna try and yank and do unnecessary levels of bullshit. And so in a way, it's kind of like soccer. Like, okay, that guy slide tackles a lot.
Yeah.
So we know to send this guy
100%.
over there or whatever.
100%.
We have our enforcers too
100%.
on the team and in the gym too, I guess, right? Like,
Bro, it's I want to say fun, but you have those times or open mats where people from all over come, and it's great. But you have somebody coming from another gym who thinks they have something to prove, and they come and they just want to just go hard, you know. And so you're sitting on the side and you're looking at it and you're just like, all right. And you all look at that one guy who's gonna, okay, I got it, and go up and then just, handle
everybody's
it.
waiting for him to.
And everybody just watches, you know what I mean? And it gets handled. And so, yeah, unfortunate to have those, but I think the gym culture, majority of the people, again, are people that I respect, not only as practitioners, but as people, because what it takes to be, training jiu-jitsu and get to that level, you can't just show up and be.
So what made you feel like comfortable as you stepping into an instructor role?
Don't.
Don't.
I don't feel comfortable.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, I mean, for the kids, again, I started when I was in the lower belts just because my son started getting in. And so I would just help out, you know what I mean? But as now, like, I'll run classes by myself, I'm not there yet. You know what I mean? As good as I want to be. Working towards it. So, I mean, I feel somewhat comfortable. I can run a class. I can teach the kids something, and I feel comfortable in that, but not where I want to be. And I guess you could take classes on how to, teach jiu-jitsu, but mostly learn by doing.
Okay.
With social media and the internet, there's so much that I reach out for. And so there's a lot of knowledge for me to gain from that, and then try to see how it works in the gym. So it's a work in progress.
One thing you said earlier was, guys, I want you to fail.
Yeah.
The only failing is giving up.
Yeah.
First, what's the balance of action to words when you're instructing?
I love that you asked this, because right now, you ever heard of the ecological approach? So the ecological approach, and again, don't come for me, I'm going to butcher this, but it's basically a way of thinking is that our environment provides everything that we need to know to learn something. Okay, if there's an act that we want to do, the environment provides everything. I don't need to say anything. I may guide you and put constraints around, what you're trying to do, but I don't have to say anything. And I akin this to, like, toddlers. Again, I have a 2-year-old, so it's very apparent. When my kid broke his leg, he couldn't walk, but the way he butt scooted is exactly what I'm trying to teach these kids on the mat, to what they do when they scoot on their butt to create space and move around. And he could do that, not a problem. And I didn't teach him that, you know what I mean? He naturally said, okay, I'm not going to be able to use this leg, but I'm going to post my hand on this mat. I'm going to use my other leg to push. I'm going to scoot. And so I don't have to use words. And if I tell you, okay, Kenji, for an armbar, these are the 10 steps you need to do. Bruh, I'm lost by step 4. Like, my mind already is gone, like, on the mat. And traditionally, that's how jiu-jitsu is taught, right? Okay, do this and this and this. In reality, if I know you're going to do this, I'm stopping you at step 2, and if I block step 2, if you don't understand what you're doing, you're not getting the armbar. So what we need to do is we need to teach concepts, right? You need to understand what I need to do to get this. And so it's not only for jiu-jitsu, but, and I was telling Don guys this, like, they do it in soccer, a lot in soccer, baseball, basketball. And so the reason why futsal works so well in transition for the ball movement or your dribbling skills is that the field, it's much smaller. That's a confinement, a constraint that you do. And instead of dribbling around cones, when have you ever played a game and the defender just stood there and said, just go around me? They're moving. So instead of dribbling around cones like we did throughout our
Like
life.
we did, yeah.
Why don't you have kids in a small area, each dribbling a ball? One person is it, and he have to dribble the ball and try to tag others, while the others visually see where the boundaries are and try to run away. Everybody's getting work at the same time. They're touching the ball, which you want them to do to learn how to dribble, and it's more game realistic. So it's teaching them, putting them in situations, okay, this is a triangle, and this is how you get the tap. Now I'm going to put you in this position. I want you to figure it out. We can come and help and point out things, but putting them in position and then letting them explore, and then just reinforcing, again, the concepts. If I want to get you in an arm bar, I have to separate your arm. Okay, we have arm separation. Now I'm going to isolate the arm, and I'm going to work to hyperextend or extend this joint here for the arm bar. Now they don't need to know the steps. They know if I get into this position, I have the arm extended from the body, and if I put pressure on the elbow, I can get an arm bar for wherever if I meet these conditions. So that's where I've been teaching it.
Concepts and environment, almost like getting out the way. It's kind of overall, like as an instructor, it doesn't matter of anything.
Yeah.
For me, the most experience I have as an instructor is when it comes to language. And like you said, like they're going to do it anyway, or they would have fun. Like the exploratory discovery phase of anything, like they'll make mistakes without even calling it mistakes.
Yep.
They'll kind of run towards the mistakes. And then the other part is like, I actually am doing a disservice by doing too much.
Spoon feeding.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like, let's just make sure we get out of this safely.
Yeah.
But other than that, go. And the constraints, I think, are super, super important, whether it's lines on a field or on a mat or time. I think time is a good constraint. Time is the other
constraint. Like, hey, no, people are just slacking doing the round. No, you have 3 minutes to get to this position. You need to go.
Right.
And
break it down.
Yeah.
So instead of 10 steps, you told me 3 concepts, for example.
Yeah.
Like, simpler is better. And then I think when you do that, you offer yourself as an instructor opportunity to grow, because now something might happen that never would have occurred to me. I've seen people use language in ways I'm like, oh, damn. Like, I didn't even see that.
Bro.
My own blind spots revealed to me because I'm not top down. This is what you got to do. And so, like, I know the instructor part, especially as fathers. In fact, now I'm thinking, like, my brother's doing a first responder series.
Yeah.
I want to do like an instructor series.
Oh, that's dope.
Because that's what I have so much experience in on both sides of language acquisition.
Yeah.
And I find the parallels, like, you gotta be, if you're learning a foreign language and you're in that country, there's every single day is humility, humble pie, because you want to be like, hey, like, you want to talk to them at the bench, but if you can't hang and you try, and then everyone realizes right away, like, you got 6 eyes on you and they're all looking at you like, he doesn't make sense. I don't know what he's saying. One nice guy might be like trying to fill in the blanks for you, but the other 2 guys are like, they gave up on you and they're already talking in their own circle. Like, that happens so much to the point that it filters out the people who are going to stay there and learn it versus the people who are just going to, all right, I'm just going to play soccer with the people I can talk to.
Right.
So, like, the natural, ecological, like, the environment will sort of grow the kind of people who stay and lose the ego. Yeah. But it's also going to weed out the people who are like, nah, this ain't my environment. So I'm drawn to that kind of the forever learning educational journey. And I know that's why when people talk about jiu-jitsu, that's one common thread.
Forever learning, man.
Is like, okay, that's another arena where my mindset is already in, but I've just never stepped in that specific, those constraints of this mat, gi, no gi, whatever age. Like, I'm sure there's different things, but there's a draw. I'll just put it that way. And I know that you've been into it so much so that, like, when we were playing soccer, at Ho'opili, Makana lives right down the street. Like, where's Makana? Like, but I knew Don or someone was like, something about jits. And I was like, you know what? I'm sure he's attacking jits the same way he's attacked everything else. Bro. And if he's in love with jits, it's like, I'm not a jealous ex-girlfriend. I want to play soccer with you, but if you're on the mats, like, I ain't mad at it. Yeah. In fact, I'm kind of curious. Oh, what's up? Like, I think there's room for it all.
Yeah.
And as you get into your 40s, I mean, we're at the doorstep of our 40s.
I'm just about there. Yeah.
Just about there. We kind of care less about these kinds of outward feedback. Like what I hear from out there, I kind of care less about
Totally.
because the conversation happening here is already front of mind. It's occupying every day. So on that note, I know you're deep in jits. Like, what do you see as, for me outside looking in, the trend is upwards.
Yeah.
There's more people practicing. There's a new gym here and there.
Yeah.
It's in the ether. It's in the conversations we see online. You could even argue MMA itself is leaning towards a wrestler, grappler, jits. Like,
bro,
look at
just
the
this past weekend, bro.
Exactly.
Grappling.
Exactly.
Grappling.
If you don't have this in your skill,
you need to
set,
have a decent skill set in
someone
grappling.
with
Otherwise,
that skill set,
if you get taken down, like it's a problem.
Which is like, okay, MMA, but the mixed part is skewing towards
before
this
us striking,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it is flashy and it is highlight
Everybody
worthy.
wants to see it. I want to see the knockout.
I would argue, tell me not, like if you look on your For You page or whatever,
yeah,
there's a lot of taps.
Oh yeah,
and what do you call them? Do you call them combos where it's like, or flows where it's grappling?
Yeah,
but the commentary is like, punching 1, 2, 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's that same lingo for the movement that happens to set up.
Oh yeah,
that's the way I say it because I don't know, but like there's the set up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I see those kind of explainers, I'm like, dude, I love it.
Yeah.
Because there's a craft, the invisible craft to most people. I feel that's on an uptick too, where people are now understanding movement in this way that's, we see it in the ring or in the octagon. So, I mean, what do you think is like the future? Let's just say 2030. Your kid's 7 and 13. Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to be in your 40s, have a new president. Like, what do you think jiu-jitsu's impact is going to be? Where do you see it, yourself included?
Man, I think the more people who do jiu-jitsu and stick with jiu-jitsu, I think it would be better for everyone. Again, there's so many boxes that jiu-jitsu checks for me, right? The physical is the obvious. The ego death is huge, again, as far as making me a more kinder individual, again, at work, as a father, and then the problem solving. You know what I mean? Like, this is millisecond problem solving with dire, repercussions if you make the wrong move. I'm going to get strangled. I'm going to get a joint lock. And so, like you said, we would, you ever see that video where they make like 1990 kids walk through the door and they hit the door jam and they just kind of look at it, walk on, and then, get into 2000. I think more people who do jiu-jitsu kind of have that mindset where, okay, this happened or this is a problem. I'm not going to freak out. I'm going to stay calm and I'm going to work my way through it. Because P did his last tournament, didn't podium, but in one of his matches, did great in all his matches. There's a point where the kid was attacking his back. And in 20 or 30 seconds, this went on. And it sounds like a short time, but in Jits time, somebody's trying to actively strangle you. That's a long time. But he kept his cool. He did exactly, went through the exchange and escaped. And that by far for me as a father is way better than getting the first place, because in that instance, I saw him not give up. He had temperance. He kept cool. And then he problem solved, right? It wasn't, it's a constant exchange throughout that 20 seconds that he was having to deal with and problem solve. And to be quick like that, as a father, I was like, boom, that's it. I don't care. And I tell him too, I was like, if you get a medal, that's fine. Like, that's not what we're here for. We're here to test yourself, to make ourselves better. In that instance, and I told him, I'm so proud of you for this. And we watched it, and he was like, Dad, yeah. And, and he's proud of it now. And so, again, he'll still on a daily, like, oh, I'm like, bro, like, really? And he'll be like, all right, I got it.
So it's building that resilience that also, I think that's the best self-esteem builder ever is.
He's again, it makes you humble. Again, if you know how to defend it, or you know jiu-jitsu or any other MMA, you're not the guy barking. You know what I mean? You're the guy in the corner just being chill. I'm not looking for confrontation, peaceful, not harmless, kind of deal. And for Sky, he's very sensitive, and I enjoy that about him. Like, and he's very caring. But he was getting bullied, you know what I mean? And so at the time too, I was like, Sky, like, take care of yourself. He's like, you said, no jiu-jitsu at school, or, you know what I mean? I was like, bro, take care of yourself. And, I'll always have your back. I know you're not going to start something. You're not that guy, but I need you to protect yourself. And so having that, I mean, going back to 2030, if more people did jiu-jitsu, had that confidence in themselves, that ego death, learning how to solve problems, I think we as a society will have more empathy for each other, be more kind to one another, and then also learn that there's no good, there's no bad, there just is, and learn to deal with it. That kind of, stoicism, I think, translates into jiu-jitsu,
Perfectly.
Yeah.
It's almost like a perfect.
Yeah, I think everybody would be better off if they did a little jits.
I've heard other practitioners of other martial arts share that same sentiment as far as this is literally what leads to world peace. And world peace is kind of a grandiose thing. It's kind of like you can't point at it, but you can point at yourself, right?
Yeah.
On a very localized level is like the person in the mirror, and that's where world peace starts, is inside you, the person. And so if martial arts at large, but jiu-jitsu specifically, is one of those kind of activators of that kind of mindset, then I like you said, the guy who can roll is not barking. I think what do you say? Quiet but not harmless. What do you say?
Oh, peaceful but not harmless.
Peaceful but not harmless. Like, dude, that's almost what I feel.
I'm not looking for the big guy in the gym. I'm looking for the kid in the corner with the glasses just chilling. That's the one you got to be worried about. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that to me is also a key part of masculinity, is you're not being harmless, right? I'm not harmless, but I'm peaceful.
Yeah.
Peaceful with myself.
Yeah.
Like the demons I fought, a lot of people will seek jiu-jitsu for healing purposes, like after a traumatic event, going through divorce, going through injury, going through something in life, and it's kind of like a healing thing, and they end up healing in ways they didn't think about. And there's also people who just come in it as a hobbyist, who find themselves, so to speak. And I think it helps when Hawaii is your backdrop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on,
where's a better place to do it?
go to the
surf,
beach.
like, it's perfect.
You surrounded by the aloha spirit, this kind of different America that we have here in abundance.
Yeah.
So like, I get that journey for sure. What your 8-year-old son, right? Shout out to P. What is he into? Because I know jiu-jitsu is one. Yeah. But like, come on, that 8-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Growing up in Hawaii, going to Kamehameha. Is he going to Kamehameha?
Oh, he is testing this Saturday. Shout out Kamehameha. Let's go. Or not testing, interviewing this Saturday. Let's go.
As a KS grad, he wants to keep the bloodline strong. And
yeah. He is into, bro. And I think there's the other thing about parenting and being a dad. Like, I thought I was going to have him playing soccer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with that. But I was just like, oh, that wasn't his thing. And he does jujitsu because I do jujitsu. And I ask him if he likes it. He says, yeah. But I know, I have a big influence. I also want him to be able to protect himself. That's all I want from that. Otherwise, his influences are every other 8-year-old. He loves Minecraft, Roblox. And then he, in school, got introduced to rocks and minerals. Showed a bunch of interest in that. Like, we would go to the library, and so I was like, you know what? As a parent, how do I stoke this flame? How do I show him support so that way, when he gets older, he has that support to pursue his passion. You know what I mean? And so, we found the Rock and Mineral Society of Hawaii. So he joins that, gets to be around other people.
There's a Rock and Mineral Society.
Shout out to the Rock and Mineral Society of Hawaii. I think like every third Wednesday they have a meeting, and they're great people. But putting him into that position, I don't particularly care for rocks and minerals, but seeing him geeked about it, and just, again, supporting that, because what makes me sad is that I think about all the adults who never find their passion or pursue their passion and go through life. I get it. You got to pay bills. You got to put food on the table, house. I get it. Like, trust me, that's not, that comes first. But whether they're not pursuing, they would rather be doing something else, or they never had that one person to just be like, yeah, go for it. You know what I mean? So again, Rocks and Minerals, he's into the Minecraft. You know, Dad, you play Minecraft with me? Sure, let's do this. You know, jumping in, just showing up, being present. One thing, and I was thinking about it too. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Okay, when you were younger, you and Ty, like, into the rap music and stuff. Did your mom buy you a dictionary for like some kind of like rhyming or to?
No.
No,
but we had dictionaries and encyclopedias.
There you go.
Yeah,
I remember us having a conversation, and then that came into like, oh, we have this, and you know, either Ty or you guys are like going through it, and you're like, oh yeah, we use this, or
was it a dictionary? Or, I mean, to that point, like, our mom definitely saw what we were into and supported it as best she could,
bro. For whatever reason, that is in my head, like,
really?
and it is weird, but I took that and I thought, like, wow, that's how I want to be, because I want to support them. Even again, if I'm not into rap music, I'm going to support them because they are, however I can. And as long as he's not hurting anybody or being, you know, a menace to society, like, bro, bring the Rocks and Minerals on, you know, Minecraft, let's go. He's into coding. We're going to do these things. Like,
what can you share with me, something about Rocks and Minerals that you learned?
Bro, Rocks and Minerals.
I want to learn something.
Dude, he's going to kill me because I don't know. No, well, recently, as you said, we went to a Bishop Museum, right? And so we learned about volcanoes because it's recently erupting. And when you melt different kinds of rock, like the basalt that we have here, you get some kind of a different mineral similar to obsidian, which happens to be one of his favorites. And so he's like, oh, dude, let's go melt rocks. I'm like, wait. It's a little bit harder than you saw the setup there, bro. Like, they have this furnace and so, yeah.
That's crazy. I wanted to melt rocks too as a kid.
Did you really?
I tried. I mean, and bro, I tried to melt the sidewalk. I tried to melt concrete. Shout out to Pete. Hey, I was a bit of a pyro as a kid. My mom will, me and Ty are going to get my mom on one of these days. But
so
for me, it was fire, heat.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit of alchemy in there, right?
Yeah.
Like a romance. Like, it almost felt like a romantic longing or relationship, like, that I yearned for. Like, this thing, like man and fire. You know, like super deep.
Yeah, it goes deep. Yeah.
I was enamored with the flame and I just wanted to procreate the flame, you know? So what's combustible? You know, okay, is mom home? No, okay, good. Next, what's combustible? What can I use?
What do I have? What can I try?
Bruh, I mean, thank goodness I didn't burn down the house, but I came close a couple times. and there's still damage. Don't pee responsibly.
Yep.
But hey, I also knew how to work a fire extinguisher. So
life lessons.
You know what I mean? I knew how to smother. I knew the triangle: heat, combustibles, and what's the third one? Something to burn. Air.
Yeah, oxygen.
Air, oxygen. So I knew if I take one of those away, I can mitigate any damage. Well, maybe not damage, but I could stop.
Yeah.
But I remember trying to melt rocks, bro.
See?
Like there's different coral rocks, obviously, in Hawaii and Westside, like Everglades. So there's red dirt, there's coral rock. It's different from, you know, if you go up Makakilo and you find some rocks up there. So, you know what? That's just something I think 8-year-old boys all around the world are doing right now, is trying to melt rocks. And, you know,
let's just try this out.
Chris, tell me you never got him one of those, like, grow your own crystal.
Oh, bro, we've gone through so many of those.
Right?
Like, that was his thing, too.
Add water, mix this.
Yeah. What can I make? Dad, what if we add this? Or, you know, and I think it's just, as a parent, just fostering that, again, showing up. And even if I don't particularly interested, I got to be there for him. And so.
You taking him Bishop Museum to Hawaiiana. Okay. That one, we take our kids there as well. And it seems like every time we visit, there's something new. I mean, even if the exhibitions don't change much, it seems like there's always something that I pick up on.
Yep.
Whether it's the dog tooth lay,
Yep.
or like something I just never read before.
Yeah.
You know,
every time.
And like recently, it was if you go in, when you go in, there's like the ulua.
Yeah.
You go underneath the ulua.
Yep.
Then it's on the first floor, but it's on the far side of the room. It's the cape.
Yeah.
That was recently returned.
Yeah.
From, was it New Zealand or?
I know what you're talking about, because now only get the helmet there. We walked past it this past time.
So that was the most recent thing for me. I was like, oh, there's a story about how this was actually way across the ocean. It was more recently returned. So even if it's something that I've seen before, the story that I can now associate with it.
Yeah.
Obviously the fishing, the lures, you know what I mean? Because imagine fishing back like just 500 years ago. What would fishing look like on these same shores that we grew up on? I can't imagine, but I like to imagine. I like to think about what that would have been like: shoreline fishing, throwing net, torching, even diving, like versions of diving.
Yeah.
You know what? I got the biggest, what's it called? Cowrie.
Oh,
cowrie shell I ever did see right here at the home break, if you will.
Yeah.
And I kind of like, I was torn, because I'm like, should I take it or should I not? I took it.
Yeah.
I took it. I dive. For me, it was like a PB dive.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can't dive that far. But I was like, this is a good test.
Yeah.
If anything, it would be for that.
Yeah.
And I already take from the ocean.
Yeah.
Right. And so I feel like everybody who does take from the ocean, or even the land for that matter, there's a certain amount of debt. I feel like you might call it kuleana, you might call it something else, but if you take, you got to kind of give and replenish.
Yeah.
And so in a way, I felt I kind of did when I'm looking at it, like, should I get it? I kind of did the math in my head. Like, man, I'm not that in debt, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
they can.
I fish responsibly.
Yeah.
You know? And but that's here in 2025. Imagine 19, 18, 17, 16, whatever, how far back you like go. Which actually reminds me, I had something there it is. Boop. This is for P.
Oh, bro.
There's a little one harvested right over here at West Oahu.
Perfect. You're going to make that lure that you saw. That's beautiful,
I hope he makes it and actually catches one.
Bro, we're going to do it. Like so every time because we travel, right?
Yeah.
And so every time we go, we try to stop at a museum just to explore and experience. And so when we travel, I have them bring a book. If something catches your eye, jot it down, draw a picture of it. I want you to be able to remember it. I'm not going to tell you what to look at, whatever catches your eye. And so again, he saw that lure and he was like, oh, okay, this is like, Dad, can we make this? I'm like, it's a shell, it's a hook and a line, I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. We can do this. I made a fish trap when I was in high school. I could do this. But yeah.
Hey, you know what? I really hope, because every time I see this, for those who don't know, this is used as an octopus lure. So I see this, especially at Bishop Museum, and you see the different versions across the Pacific Ocean and different versions and setups, angles of the hook, thickness of the line, everything. And I just never, even with all the video that there is online today, I've never seen a video of that work. I've seen people catch taco with line from like a diver's POV underwater. I'm like, oh, cool. You can see it move and
come out.
But not with that. Especially if you do it old school and like you're not using fishing line or anything. You actually make your own rope.
Now we have a challenge.
Hey, I'm all for that challenge.
Yeah, I like it.
And when you said you made a fish net, is that something you did at Kamehameha Schools or something you did by yourself?
No. At Kamehameha Schools, one of our projects was to make one of those old school fish traps. The kind with the rock at the bottom. Like so you put the bait inside, they come in, they kind of exit. It was it wasn't the prettiest. It was high school.
Oh, high school.
Yeah.
Did you actually try it?
Uh, I did, and I didn't catch anything, but I don't think I tried hard enough, like to go, and really go to a good spot and
Yeah.
drop it. But yeah, I think mom still actually has it someplace. Mom doesn't throw anything away.
NTB.
Yeah, we'll find it.
Hey,
Oh, I should find it and bring it for PDP. Would be
bro,
dope. Yeah.
why not make it? That's for me. The selfish dad in me wants to take my girls fishing.
Are they interested?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like I'm forcing it.
Yeah.
Like we're going. No, we're going. You know,
Yeah.
like sometimes it feels like that.
Yeah.
But without fail, every time we're actually on the shore.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, the environment does it. I don't have to
Oh.
say anything once we're there on the shore.
Yeah.
And it could be a tide pool, it could be sandcastles, it could be hand lining, it could be so many different things, which is why I love the term holo holo.
Yeah.
Because it might not mean fishing.
Yeah.
But I'll have my fishing gear.
Oh, we ready at all
It
times
might
to do
be
anything.
just with a net catching little
Yeah.
fish, or might be just catching crabs. Whatever the case, that environment for learning
Yeah.
that's what I really want to impart on them.
Yeah.
Is like we can show up and we don't know exactly what we're gonna do or catch or go for.
Yeah.
But when we show up and we see the conditions, we'll figure it out.
Problem solver, man.
And we're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
Which in a way, like the beach is one of the best learning environments. For me, we're biased because we grew up in it. But imagine if we grew up in like Nebraska.
I can't.
Or-
We just went beach this past Friday. You know, after Paul Hanakine, like, hey, you know what? Let's just catch a sunset.
Yeah.
And White Plains, they are playing in the sand. The little ones, getting exposed to that. And just sat down as I'm trying to be more present, and I just looked out into the water at the sunset. Again, I'm biased. One of the most beautiful sunsets, ever. Just thinking, like, where else in the world would you really be able to just Friday afternoon after work, last minute, shoot it to the beach,
Sunset.
catch the sunset. This is picturesque, you know what I mean? And I often take it for granted. I'm sitting home in traffic just driving, but if I, responsibly look around, the mountains we're driving through. We just shot over the H Street to go Kaneohe, and we're just looking at the mountains, and we're just, bro, the hotels are beautiful.
That's always. I don't care.
No matter
if
how many times I drive over, if it's
Yup.
raining, but look at the waterfalls. And then again, going back, what did this look like back in the day? Like, can you imagine? And that's why New Zealand, when we went, bro, that's the only place that P cried leaving. And we travel a lot because of what JC does, and we're very fortunate. But out of all the places that we've been to, he's only cried that once and leaving Queenstown. He did not want to go. Like, it was that beautiful, and it brought that kind of maybe what of Hawaii would have looked like, back in the day.
That's one thing I've heard that is high up on my list is Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Bro.
To me, I spent 8 years in Japan, right? Which is an island nation in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
Just in a different place. Amazing growing experience. Part of my roots as well. But I have always had my eye down in the Southern Hemisphere as well, because I want to see the stars from there. I know how much of an anchor it is in the influence that I have growing up here on these islands. So to hear that, how old was he when he cried? Like,
Probably 7. Like, it was just last March. It was last spring break. Like,
maybe not even a year ago.
Yeah.
See, for me, there's the postcard version. Like, I think anyone who's planning to travel is going to have the postcard version, the Instagram version. But then tell me how that version changed for you actually going there. And also, what did you do there?
Bro, shout out to JC. I'm a travel princess. I'll admit it. I show up and go. I think, again, because we are very fortunate with her travel benefits, that a lot of the stress of planning things comes off, because now we're going, we have the potential to go again, versus, okay, you have your family, you're saving up, you're going to go all this time, you're going to try to get all those things knocked off your list. And so when we go, there's things that we want to do, Hobbiton, you want to go see that, Lord of the Rings. But we left a lot of room open for exploring. And I think what I've gathered and what I'm grateful for is that, like you said, you show up to the beach. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to go around and we're going to find things. Right? We drove in New Zealand. We driving on the left side. That was an experience, stressful one, but we did it, and then just wandering like, oh, look at this beach, huge beach. No one else. And we're looking around like, is it like dangerous? Like, what are we, you know what I mean? But picking shells or jumping in the water. I mean, we just had time to explore and did whatever we wanted to, whatever caught our eye. We hit Hobbiton, we did Waiheke Island, for like the wineries and stuff like that. We did some of the tourist things. But again, rock and minerals, he's into it, right? Right. We found the rock and mineral store just wandering. He went in there. The people were super nice, gave him a bunch of stuff, told us, oh, if you go down this place, go walk by the river. So walked down by the river, went and just picked, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I would 10 out of 10 go back in a heartbeat.
It sounds like part of the reason you had such an amazing experience is because you left two things. You relieved the pressure of packing everything into this trip, which I think is a big trap for anybody traveling, especially local families. Because how you laid it out, like that is the truth for us living in Hawaii. Is a lot of times you have to save up, and it's like you want to juice everything out of this, pay time off, or even maybe it's not paid time off, and you saved up because it's just price of living. So there's that tendency to go hard. Yeah, when that could actually make you have a worse experience than if you
experienced that.
Than if you left space open for exploring. Yeah. And, I have the conversation a lot with friends who travel to Japan, especially now with how the dollar yen ratio thing is. And I see their itinerary sometime and I'm like, cut that in half. Yeah. Because there's no time to explore or have happy accidents or discover everything down to the minute. But you know what? Like if that's your thing and that some people travel like that, then by all means good. That serves you. But that I tell you what, that ain't happening with kids. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Good luck. Good luck.
That ain't happening with kids. Yeah. One. And then two is like, where's the space? Yeah. There doesn't have to be, but I prefer some open space. Yeah. Where you can get up at 11 if it's your day one, day two, you're still adjusting. Yeah. Where you can be like, I don't know. And, depending on the length of your trip, you're going to meet people there. Yeah. Who might end up giving you opportunities that weren't on your itinerary. Yep. And so like leaving space for that, or at least being open to dropping some things from the itinerary, I think is crucial. Yeah. But as, something I can ask you about, because you are like me, born and raised Hawaii, right? But you have left Hawaii a lot. You've traveled so much. Yeah. Right? Shout out to JC, shout out to Hawaiian, right? And that was my upbringing as well. My mom worked for United.
There you go.
And so if you have that kind of travel hack in the family in Hawaii, like great, by all means use it. You've used it and you're using it with your family. So I guess it's kind of hard to say now, but like, how do you think that's changed you I know you even proposed in Paris, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I did.
A lot of local people, sometimes it feels like because of the world is being so connected today, it's like, I already seen Paris. Yeah. I already seen Lord of the Rings, New Zealand, like, Japan, whatever. Like, there's this false sense of like connectivity or a very distant digital connection. But as you know, it ain't picking up rocks in the river in New Zealand. So like, how do you how do you prioritize traveling in your family?
I think recently, again, we prioritize experiences. Like I'm going to buy you a video game. You're going to play the video game for a couple months and then you're going to forget about it. But do you remember that time in 2024 where we went to Japan for 2 days and we had 2 Christmases and we flew back? He's going to be like, yeah, I remember that. You know what I mean? Or do you remember going down and picking these rocks and doing these things? So experiences over everything. Like as a parent now, they're like, oh, I'm going to put my kid out of school. Like, oh, what for? We're going on a trip. Oh, that's not going to be excused. I know. I'll deal with it. But I tell you what, he's going to remember this for the rest of his life. And I'm glad. And again, experiencing new places, new things. I can read about it. I can put on the VR headset. I can look around, but it's nothing like walking, and smelling, the fresh bakeries in Paris. Or again, he knows, he'll hear the sounds of the combinis.
Yeah.
And he'll look around like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Family
he
Mart?
knows, he's like, Family Mart?
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And so, and just sights, the sounds, you can't get those anywhere else. And we're going to milk that as much as possible.
Do you think that seeing all these places makes you love Hawaii more?
For sure. Out of everywhere in the world that I could have been born and I can reside, I'm here. And like I said, being able to catch a beautiful sunset like that, like I used to take it for granted. And now as I'm maturing and trying to be more present, I just really am thankful for the opportunities that I get on a day-to-day basis. And so when I travel other places and I see other things, I always relate it back to Hawaii. Oh, in Hawaii, I'll get traffic here in Hawaii, but, good and bad it take. But I could have been a lot worse places than here in Hawaii. And so it's a hard one to beat.
Do you think that, because a lot of times I hear, oh, Hawaii's the best,
Yeah.
but I'm hearing it from someone who perhaps never left Hawaii.
Yeah.
Or someone who it's like if I hear someone say, oh, this ramen is the best. I'm like, but you only been eating here your whole life.
Cup noodle. What you talking?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So similar, like, oh, this movie's the best,
Yeah.
but you've watched it 85 times. You don't
Yeah.
watch other movies. Like, okay, Hawaii's the best. I get it.
Yeah.
But like, what's your sample size?
Yeah.
And I think it is the best. So that's the thing. I think I agree with you, but it's
why.
because in relation to these other places that you love it even more. And I could go back to the people of Hawaii long before the occupation who were well traveled.
Yeah.
Right. And I think in a sense, traveling just makes you love home more.
Right.
And so incorporating that as a priority, that's a priority in our family. That's kind of why I asked you. And I love Hawaii even more every time I come back. With the traffic, with the mosquitoes,
traffic.
with the everything,
Yeah.
with all the blemishes, the imperfections that are Hawaii. I love them more because I just widen my view a little bit to see where it fits in the world that we have.
Yeah.
And so our kids are going to grow up with that. And it's something I didn't get to grow up with.
Yeah.
I mean, to a degree, like I was able to go to mainland a lot, but my first international travel is good. We're already doing that.
Bro,
now.
The little one traveled at 6 months. He went to Japan.
There
you know
you
what
go.
I mean? I'm just like, his first solid foods were Japanese food. Bruh. And to this day, he'll smash, raw fish, sushi, ramen.
Natto.
Oh, he eating?
Hey, natto is don't sleep
Don't
on
sleep
natto,
on it.
especially for toddlers. They love it.
Bro.
It's like poi almost.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a superfood.
Yeah.
And kids love it.
Yeah. So, 100%, man. Like, again, if I was born someplace else, I may not have the same, viewpoint. But experiencing other places and then coming home, it's home. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, 100%. You hit it on the head.
Bro, thank you. I feel like I wanted to get more into soccer, but I feel like we that's just part of we can at any time turn it on, And if anything, I just want to leave the audience with, you do not need to go out searching for the perfect guest to have on a podcast or the perfect camera to shoot or perfect lights. The journey's inward. And I guarantee there's someone who's already in your phone book, recent calls list, that you could just have an intentional conversation with that's going to land with a lot of people. Even if it's not the most viral thing, I think there's so much value and untapped potential in conversations between friends. And we didn't even talk about friendship, but I think friendship is diluted nowadays. Even the term friends, it's like, really? Do you know them? if you called them, would they answer? Do they know where you live? Can they show up at your doorstep? If they did, would you feel weird? You know what I mean? Like, friendship for us, we grew up, I guess we are the last of it, but like where we knew each other's parents, there was a relationship beyond the individual. It's like your family.
Yeah.
Now it's so direct that you could be talking with people and be friends with people without knowing their family.
Yeah.
Who's in their house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, we're old in a way, and we might kind of romanticize that time in history. It's not that. I understand that. We're raising kids in this time. I know this. But, you know, friendship in general, like, what does it mean? It's kind of being redefined. And I'm just happy that I can call you a friend in the traditional sense, in the meaningful sense. And I think that those kind of things will translate even when they're out there with strangers, but maybe new friends. And so, you know, I encourage everyone to question friendship. Protect yourself, kind of like what you're telling your son, because there's people who will fly the flag of friendship with ulterior motives, and it's easy to connect and deceive. But take time for the real ones. And so thanks for coming through. I mean, anytime, bro.
Bro, thanks for having me, bro.
No, and you know what? Anytime, and any other nurses too. Like, I put this invitation out to Michelle once. I was like, I want to hear your guys' voice as well. Some people who I feel, we didn't get into the whole thing about helping people because that's at the deep root.
That's what it is.
That's what it is, and you're doing it as a profession. But nurses out there, your voices are welcome here anytime. So we had to do a little remix, a little Hana Ho, because as so often happens, the juiciest, most meaningful, valuable conversations happen after I press record. But this one, I had to press record again because this is the most, I think, I don't want to say valuable, but impactful part of what you do. And in a way, it ties into what I do, because these videos will be a record of these two fathers in time for when our daughters are our age and maybe parents of themselves, and see how we dealing with being parents and such. These videos will live on beyond the time of the people in them. And in that sense, you know, I just shared with you the story about Alex Yee. Shout out to Alex and his family. Someone who sold me this lens here. I bought this lens that's Makana's angle from him, and I'll just share that story quickly. But he sold me his lens. I went to his house in Mililani, got it. And then after, you know, we're texting, he's telling me how he's seeing 100 Bad Videos. I think I might have been in episode like 3, 4, or 5 or something. Early. Like none of this was here. And he's like, man, it's cool. I love what you're doing. And I was like, bro, we should do one. We should do one. Because I know him from weddings. We did wedding videos together. And so I was like, let's do one and we'll talk shit about weddings. And, you know, from the vendor point of view. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. He died. Not even like 2 months after that conversation. And when I was having that conversation with him, I had no idea of the severity of his situation health-wise. He was already terminally ill, literally on his deathbed in a hospital. But I didn't know, just texting him, right? So in my head, I'm like, yeah, we'll do a podcast together. We'll kind of talk shit about the wedding industry and all that. Next thing I know, other people in the wedding industry are reaching out to me saying, did you hear about it? Hear about what happened? And we're talking about his, what's that called? Like ceremony of life. Ceremony, you know, and we're making these plans and I'm just tripping because I'm like, the last conversation I had, we were talking about doing something like this. And I think about that every time. Not only do I look at literally that lens, but all the people who have been shot through that lens and the significance of conversation being left for other people. And most, I think about Alex's child who was so young at that time of his passing, and how valuable that conversation of Alex would have been to his child and his family. And it's kind of a regret of mine that I didn't act. Even if I did act, I don't know if he could have actually left the hospital to come here and do it. But how powerful would that video be to Alex's family? I always think about that. And as I share that with Makana, I realize, wait, this is kind of what you are face to face with, in that you're seeing children come in who might not leave. What kind of, just tell me about that.
Yeah, man. It's, again, as far as perspective goes, right? Perspective is everything, how you look at something. And I have the perception through a lens of a healthcare provider in a hospital where kids get sick, and sometimes they don't get to leave, right? Or if they do leave, they're not the same kid that they leave with. And being faced with that on a daily basis really puts things, again, into perspective as far as what are the big things, what are the small things, what things do I wish I would have done, with my kid or with my loved one.
What about the parents? Because you're, as a medical professional, you see what's happening with the child, and you can kind of get a good idea of where this child is going. Do you break that news to the parents, or how do you deal with the parents and that information?
Yeah, man, it's always tough. Again, we are a healthcare team, so it's not just me going in, but it's someone from the team. But we are talking with the families, and it's not always the best of news as far as their prognosis. And every time I step into a room, again, I picture, my boys and being on the flip side of that, and how I would want to be told, or just putting myself in that position. And so, never easy. The bedside manner is huge, but that perspective, again, I yell at my son, clean up your toys. But I've had parents tell me, I wish I could, scold them to tell them pick up the toys one more time, or I wish I would have told them this, or told them I love them, because sometimes the kids who come in otherwise healthy, not expecting anything, and stuff happens, and you never get that back. And I can't imagine. And so, as we were talking, I think this capturing moments that will be here, like you said, long after we are, is huge. And so, whether it's, again, I have that voicemail from my grandma that I'm not deleting, and I just listen to it and hear their voice, but putting that into a daily perspective with my kids, and being there, loving them, giving people their flowers, taking the opportunities, the 100 bad videos, taking that step. But just know that, again, don't wait.
How do you not take the weight of that kind of loss? How do you not take it home with you?
Oh, it comes home. It comes home, and it comes in the form of hugs and kisses. If it's been a bad day, come home, love on them hard. And, JC knows. She's like, oh, okay. Yeah, because you can't separate it, and those, some people may be better at it than others. But I think, again, the provider that I am is because of the father that I am. And so, again, bring it home, love all my kids, and again, don't wait, if there's an opportunity, or take it,
Does your job offer, it's easy when we talk about PTSD,
Yep.
it's traumatic for the hospital staff as well, as well as the family and the patients. So the traumas spread, and military, for example, right? First responders, just kind of built in as far as like therapy or ways to deal with the PTSD, the stress, the mental battle, the mental fortitude of the practitioners there. So what kind of structure or what kind of support systems do you have as a medical professional?
Yeah, they definitely, it's there, should you need it. And, if there's a passing or somebody, there's always that kind of huddle afterwards. And so like, hey, is everybody, good? If you need to seek, assistance, it's there. So it is, and they are supportive. I've never used it because I felt that, I was okay, I didn't need to, but knowing that it's there if I really, I think for me, it's more, again, I can come home, love all my kids, talk with JC, and just appreciate, again, the blessings. I think before all of this, I used to complain way too much. Again, growing up, I thought, okay, I want the nice cars, I want the big house, I want lots of money. And like you said, I think money's nice, it is. I'm not acting like I'm not fortunate. But what I do is because I want to help people. And this perspective, I am hesitant to leave this exact role in the hospital and go to like a primary care, because you don't see it as much in a primary care setting, right? Because otherwise they're healthy, they're okay. Sometimes you have obviously a patient who passes away. But being in the hospital and being in the service that I am in infectious disease, we see sick patients and I'm exposed to that more. And I think that reminder keeps me in that space. And so,
would you say that your high, when I say high, I mean relatively speaking to the general population, your high exposure to death gives you more life in a
yeah, it does. I think, again, not even death, it's just being sick. You know what I mean? Health is a crown that only the sick can see. You walk around, right? You're feeling like, walking around and complaining of this and that. But then again, somebody's in the hospital and they're wishing, like you said, you got an injury. You're like, oh man, And so to be a parent of a child who's in the hospital and, majority of the times we're able to get them better. And that's, again, that feels good. Getting the thank you notes or saying, the family is saying, hey, you know what, you really helped us go through a tough time. Like that means the world. That's what I do it for, But then again, that perspective that comes with it when things don't go so well, makes me a better dad, a better human. And that's something that I'm hesitant to give up. And, but I'm reminded. And so I hope that everybody kind of takes it into perspective that, again, things could be worse. So count your blessings.
You heard it from someone who's on the front lines of these situations. So I guess that's the take home is count your blessings. Go home and love on your family.
Yeah.
And if you can, leave some video messages for your family.
You know what
I mean?
It's again, to give you your flowers, I think it's so dope what you guys are doing, involving the family and capturing these moments. And that other idea, which I'm going to keep off camera because I want you, dude, it almost brings me to tears to think, again, of these kids, if you could capture them, with their parents, or
look, I'm not a gatekeeper. Like I'll say the idea because it's bigger than me. I think every hospital, especially what do you call them? Like not terminal hospital, but like hospitals where you're dealing with people who could be passing, especially create a set like this, different from their hospital bed, right? A little bit more dignity, a dignifying kind of set that's not a hospital bed. And it's not much. Everything in this studio, you know what I mean? Like is pennies to a hospital budget. Create a place where patients and family can leave video messages. like how I explained my own personal story, literally everyone in the hospital, especially if you're in those kind of situations that you're dealing with, is priceless. To have your family members' voices, movements, messages. If you can, I would suggest one wide angle that you can see most of, like, head to toe. But even if it's like this, a medium, close, whatever the case, voice and movement are things that you're not going to be able to replicate. Why not preserve these things? And you can be intentional about the set. There's so many ways to do it from a logistical standpoint, but the bones of it are leave a message. And a lot of times you're not thinking about it when you're thinking about hospital bills. You're thinking about whose shift is it? Where did I park? Validation. All, like, you're not in the right mind space. I say this as a video professional who took my video camera setup to our child's second birth and didn't take a second of video. Okay. I went in with the full intention of videoing everything. I had the mics. No. When you're in that situation, when you're in that room, you're not in a place of thinking, oh, let me set up the mics and stuff. But if the hospital took that, kuleana, if the hospital said, you know what, on this floor, in this room, look, there's your schedule here. There's a 15-minute opening for you. Our staff will help move if it is a patient, if you know, to this place and leave a message and that kind of stuff. You know, I say it because I don't think it's something that like, hey, Kenji's an overnight billionaire because of this idea. I say it because I know the value it would have for all the people out there who have a voicemail and that's all they have, right? If you had a video, you know what I'm saying, of your grandma, like, that's different. And so who knows, with the advancement of technology, it's just getting a lot easier. The barrier to entry to these kinds of things, these videos and stuff, and sharing is getting lower and lower. So it just, to me, seems like a make sense move. And I mean, just think about all the families out there. Like, imagine all the tears from people watching these videos, right? And that's, I mean, why aren't hospitals, why don't they have a studio like this? I don't know. But it's not about me. I think at the end of the day, it's about those kids who can hear their dad. You know what I mean? Like, it's like Alex's kid who can. But that's another videographer who, like myself, had the talent, the tech, the abilities to do it. But you're just not, when you're in that place, it's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Alex would have. He had enough energy to text me. I'm sure he would have, if that option was available for him, he would have done it. Yeah. So yeah. Thanks, Al, for making me cry, dog.